Good evening. Welcome to the planning meeting this evening. I'll call the meeting to order, the time being 5:35. We're starting a little late this evening. For resolution, I'll have the adoption agenda, and it's an amended agenda tonight.
Be resolved that the agenda be amended as follows, adding delegation requests by Melissa Kajpust for Gateway Road speed concerns.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Postuma, seconded by Councillor Rebeck. All those in favor? That's carried. And I should mention that Councillor Duval is not with us this evening. So for resolution, the confirmation of the minutes from June 13th, please.
Be resolved that the council meeting minutes of the June 13th, 2023 regular meeting be approved.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Postuma. All those in favor? That's carried. And then moving to delegations. Melissa Kajpust. If it's green, it's on.
There, okay. First, I'd like to thank Mayor and councilors for giving me the opportunity tonight. I know it was really short notice, so greatly appreciate that. I've been a resident of East St. Paul for over 35 years. My husband Ralph and I have raised our 3 children here. And we recently were very blessed to be able to move into Gateway Point, one of the townhouses, and stay in a downsized home where we can still stay in the community. And our daughter is also in the area and going to have a baby. Her and her husband are expecting, so we're excited about that. So today I'm here to petition the RM of East St. Paul to address the issue of speed and safety on Gateway Road, which runs behind Wills Way, and I live at 15 Wills Way. So there is 16 townhouses, 8 are already occupied and 8 are under construction that back very closely onto Gateway Road. I think I was going to go and measure today, but it was really muddy, so I think it's probably about 45 feet from the wall of our house to the street. So the yard is 27 feet, and then there's just a regular sized ditch. It's not an extended ditch in any way, just quite regular. So in moving into the area, we realized very early on that the speed of traffic, the amount of traffic, the noise of traffic, and the dust from the traffic was very disturbing to any opportunity to try to enjoy our backyard. And Manitobans love to enjoy their backyards, as we all know in the summer. Our summers are short, so it's very, very difficult with what's going on in the road back there. But even more than just, my neighbor's own personal desire to have a nice experience, we're really worried about safety. So given that the yards are, quite short, there will be a fence built by Irwin Homes, a 6-foot fence, but all of the units, except for the end units, and I'm in an end unit, will have a gate on the back of that fence. There will be access for children to, running out of those gates and into that streeted area with the fast moving traffic. And the speed limit right now on Gateway is 60 kilometers an hour. But most people are using it as a throughway, or I don't know, thoroughfare, I can't remember the word they use, but they're not coming from our neighborhood. They're really coming from Pritchard Farm and going to Mulder to get onto the highway. So cars are really whipping by very bad in morning rush hour times. So there's also a lot of pedestrian traffic. Is this me making the noise? Am I too close? So, sorry. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic that comes from our neighborhood, which is quite a few units, and they're crossing Gateway to get to the path, which is so much fun. Everybody loves having that path there to access to either go on the path or go into Pritchard Farm. So a lot of traffic with people with children, people with pets, and with the cars speeding by, that does feel quite dangerous. So I've started talking to some of the residents in the area, and I was so grateful to speak tonight, but I haven't had a chance to go door to door and really get a petition, which I've started fully signed. But I did provide what I have so far, which is 12 signatures from residents in the area. But I haven't, like I say, that's just talking to people I know. I haven't had a chance to go door to door, which I will do, depending on the decision tonight. If we can come to a resolution, then won't need to do anything more. what we're proposing is to have a reduction, there's a couple of proposals we'd like to suggest. And of course, leave it up to council, you know, with our input to come up with the best solution. But for sure, the first thing is reducing the speed from 60 kilometers an hour to 50. I did a little bit of research, and for a rural in Manitoba, a rural road in a community is usually 30 to 50. So because we are so close, we're a new community with access to that road, we really are more of a local road. So certainly coming between that 30 to 50 kilometers an hour makes sense. The other thing, you know, we noticed years ago, Hillside Spaddock and what's the other street there? Elliott, they had a barricade put up on Gateway. I imagine, wasn't part of that, but I imagine it was for the same kind of reason. There was a lot of traffic, maybe safety concerns. I would love to see a barricade and have that road completely shut down, you know, right sort of south of D&D Excavations. We don't want to limit them from their access, which they've had for quite some time. That would be amazing. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but would love to see that as a solution. Speed bumps is something that's come up when I've been talking to people, like a reduction of the speed limit, but also speed bumps. They really do work to reduce traffic. But one of the most popular solutions that I've heard from my neighbors is a stop sign at Gateway and Oak Ridge, which would not impact the community at all because everybody entering into that community from Gateway is already stopping. So that would be a fantastic solution. Stop signs would reduce traffic and also deter them from using Gateway. I'd really rather prefer to see them using Trolley, which doesn't have houses as close. In fact, I don't think there's any homes in all of East St. Paul that are as close to a road as we are. I think that's something brand new. So not that I've seen or can think of. There was another road reduction for the houses, country villas that are on Birds Hill Road. Years ago, that used to be 70. Charles, you might remember from your council days, you've been here a long time, and that was reduced to 50. So, and they're even further than we are from the road. So these are some of the things we've seen in the community happen in the past. We'd love for that to happen for us as well. The other thing is the municipal trucks are, using that road frequently, right? And they're sometimes speeding, sometimes not. I'm not gonna, completely point a finger at them, but I certainly have seen them speed down there. And they're causing a lot of dust and noise and everything. So deterring them to use other access points because of that, our road would be really great as well. So that's all I had to say. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to questions, and remember, council, we can ask some questions, but we'll discuss further along in the meeting tonight. Councilor.
Yeah, sure.
In talking about pedestrian traffic, maybe we could look at doing a pedestrian crossing. With lights that could lead people to the path.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I've noticed the one because I used the path quite a bit and lived in the area for a long time. The one on Richard Farm Road, it's a little dangerous. Like I find that when I'm driving or I'm a pedestrian, people don't often really notice it in time. I think stop signs, people just get used to continually having to stop, right? It becomes a habit in their driving on their route. So a good suggestion, but I think we would still, because it wouldn't reduce the speed. If there's no one crossing at that time, we'd still have the issue of cars whipping by our yards. So thank you.
No other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next we have our public hearings. 6.1 is the first variation order for resolution to open the public hearings.
Be resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 49, 2023 for 3485 Rebeck Road.
I have a mover, please. Councilor Horechko, seconded by Councilor Imhoff. All those in favor? It's carried. The public hearing is now open, and we will pass the floor over to Mr. Planner.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, council. If you would just allow me to share the screen and start the presentation.
I just have to reset it.
We've all got it.
Okay. The first one we have is a variance application, BO 49/2023. This is on 3485 Rebeck Road. The applicant wishes to increase the fence height, partially in the front and partially in the rear of the subject property. As per the variance request, the applicant wishes to increase the height from required 4 feet to 8 feet in the front and 6.56 feet to 8 feet in the rear. I had a bunch of aerial view photographs, but I can just read. They wanna do this 8 feet fence to obstruct the view from pedestrians and cyclists as per the letter of intent. We did not receive any objections from our administration or any circulating agencies during the circulation period, but we did receive an anonymous objection from surrounding resident this morning. If the council wishes to approve this application, we have one condition that this variance is limited to increased fence height for front yard and rear yard. Any changes in use, additions and or replacement will require new variance approval. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Butler?
No, it's,
Awesome.
yeah, basically, but the, we're going from 4 feet in the front, that usual to 8,
Yes,
like a 50%. And then, the rear from 6.5 to 8.
yes. And only partial, it's not all around the property line, only few portions.
Councilor Rechko?
My concern is possibly the traffic. When it's at the stop sign, that it's gonna be obstructed,
Yeah, and then
being
is,
that much higher.
Yeah.
Is the intersection. Yeah,
Again, we didn't really hear anything from the agencies, but I think that was the concern from the surrounding residents as well.
right, yeah, from the resident.
I see that we have a sketch in our package, and I'm just wondering. We don't have the aerial view. So is it that the 8-foot fence is coming only up to the? I assume this is the house that's on a bit of an angle,
Right, yeah.
and that the 8-foot fence is coming up to, almost up to the house?
On the front, yes. So it's about 48 meters long.
Right, but it doesn't go in front of the actual
No,
house.
so it doesn't go in front of the house.
And the reason the request is there is because there's a pool back there, correct?
Yes, there's a pool back.
And so when individuals are driving down Rebeck, they can see into the yard because essentially it's a front yard, but it acts as a side yard.
It's a weird shape, it's a
Yes.
kind of lot, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I have a better understanding of the request now. Council, do we have any other questions? No? Okay. Then I will ask if the applicant is in the audience tonight to speak to the application. And is it Gordon Daly? Daly, okay.
So something.
Thanks for letting me apply for this variance. I was just looking to explain the front yard and backyard part of it. As you said, it's a bit of an odd shaped yard. And we don't actually, as per the diagram, the front yard doesn't have a fence at all. So the fenced area is actually surrounding the backyard. And that's why I'm trying to get this view from the path into the backyard. There was a concern about the stop sign. The proposed height increase of the fence is still 100 meters away from the intersection as well. So the furthest point 7 you can see on the diagram. So there would be no interference, and even with the 8 feet height, that is actually only at eye level of the pedestrian walking side, because our yard is so much lower than the sidewalks. So I think the sidewalk's about 3 feet above our property. Right. So even if someone was, well, they could still see it in their backyard with the things. And I think that's all I have to explain about the. I'm not sure. Said there was a anonymous report this morning, but I'm not sure what someone would be objecting to, because it doesn't affect anything, and there's so many trees in our yard that people there that you can be able to see our fence anyway. Trees in front of the fence is going.
Okay, so you've answered my only question is why the 8 feet, but now I understand there's an elevation difference between sidewalk and your grade, so I get that. Is there any other further questions for Councillor Bustermas?
Yeah, so my understanding is this is for your rear to 8 and then the side along the side of the pool. You're not putting an 8 foot in front of the driveway.
There's nothing in our.
Yeah, there'd be, because it's an angle, the front is, it's actually.
The front corners of our house, is just gonna be standard 6 by 5 feet.
Okay.
And it's just gonna be around the backyard essentially.
Around the backyard essentially.
But it is on the front street, but it's our backyard. It's like a frame shape.
Confused.
I'm just gonna take a moment.
Eight foot fence.
Okay. Okay, sometimes actually the projection helps, and tonight we really needed it, I think so.
So there's no fence on Rebeck Road at all. That's the front one.
No, well, on the front part of the house.
The fence as well.
Oh, so they'd be there too.
There will be a fence along the path or
There is-
sidewalk,
There is right now, it's at 6.
except it'll be taller.
Except it's 4 feet.
6.5 feet.
So it's higher than it was supposed to be.
No, well, it's around our backyard.
Sorry, currently you have a 6 foot fence
Currently have 6.5.
and you want to add to
Yeah.
1.5 foot to match what potentially would be the new fence. And once again, it's because of the difference in elevation,
Because of the elevation on off of Rebeck sidewalk.
right? Because the sidewalk, the public sidewalk, you understand, okay.
Good.
Councillor Imhoff, do you have any questions?
No, the only concern I had was the distance to the stop sign, and I think at 100 meters. Yeah,
I didn't.
give or take, and then
It's well below the southernmost point of it.
so I'm just looking at the street view now. So the end of the existing fence that's there, that's that distance to the.
Actually, it'll be even more because we're shortening that fence.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Okay, we don't have anybody else signed in to speak in support or in opposition or for information. Do we have anybody online? No. Okay, so is council prepared to close the public hearing? Okay, for resolution, please.
We resolve that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 49, 2023 at 3485 Rebeck Road.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Imhoff, second by Counselor Rebeck. All those in favor? Let's carry. The public hearing is now closed. And for resolution.
Be resolved that variation order 49/2023 be approved, subject to the following condition. This variance is limited to increased fence height for the front yard and rear yard of the subject property. Any changes in use, additions, and or replacement may require a new variance approval.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Horachko, seconded by Counselor Postumus. Any discussion? Okay. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, 6.2 variation order.
Be resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 56/2023 at 3558 Rebeck Road.
I have a mover, please. Counselor Imhoff, seconded by Counselor Rebeck. We're missing Duval tonight, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried, and the public hearing is now open, and I'll pass it on to Mr. Flatter.
Thank you, ma'am. This is variance application BO 56/23. The subject property is located at 3558 Rebeck Road. The applicant wishes to increase the height and area of an accessory structure in the rural residential zone. As per the variance request, the applicant wishes to increase the height from the required 20 feet to 20.7 feet. And increase the area from the required 1,200 square feet to 1,560 square feet. As per the applicant, they're proposing a building that has a footprint of 1,200 square feet, but they're also proposing an additional 360 square feet mezzanine for extra more storage. Which is why the entire area is going to be increased to 1,560 square feet. We did not receive any objections during the circulation. If the council wishes to approve this application, we recommend two conditions. Number one, this variance is limited to increased area and height of the accessory structure as proposed in this application and the site plans. Any further changes or additions would require any approval. Number two, the applicant will obtain all the required permits from the Time District and the RMLD St. Paul. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Flatter? Not hearing any. We'll move along. Do we have a sign-in sheet? Great. Is the applicant in the audience tonight and wish to speak to the application? Thank you.
Good evening, appreciate your time. Yeah, so the plan is to build a workshop in back my property, Rebeck Road, as mentioned, the limitations for the in the area for 1,200 square feet footprint and 20 feet tall, so I'm exceeding that by a few inches. And then of course the footprint will remain at 1,200 square feet. The addition of the mezzanine is what we're seeing.
Are you Adam?
Yes, Alec.
Alec?
Alec.
Alanek. Okay, thank you. Okay. Does council have any questions for the applicant? No. Okay, no questions, so we can have a seat. Thank you. We don't have anybody else signed in support or anyone signed in opposition. Nobody for information and no one on Zoom. Is council prepared to close the public hearing? Okay, we'll just wait for our CAO to go back. For resolution to close, please.
Be resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 56/2023 for 3558 Rebeck Road.
Can I get a mover, please? Counselor Imhoff, second by Counselor Horachko. All those in favor? That's carried. Public hearing is now closed. And for resolution.
Be resolved that variation order 56/2023 be approved, subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to increased area and height of the accessory structure as proposed in the application and the site plan. Any further changes or additions would require annual approval. The applicant owner obtains all the required permits from the Rebeck Planning District and the RMLD St. Paul.
I have a mover, please. Counselor Horachko, second by Counselor Postumus. Any discussion? Counselor Postumus.
Yes, I see this as fair acreage, and it's further out in the country area. I know we've done a few of these before. We've gone to from 1,200 to this is 15, so it's not a huge. We've done a couple in that 1,500 range. So I don't see, because it's so rural, I don't see a major problem with it out there.
So the building itself, I believe, is 1,200 square feet, stays within. We can't speak to any further, sorry. It's the mezzanine that's being created inside the structure that's adding the square footage. So the footprint of the building is within the 1,200 square feet.
Right, okay,
He's just adding square footage inside,
inside.
correct? Yes,
No question.
nothing to say, okay. You're good? Okay, I'll call for the question then. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, item 6.3, variation order 63.
Be resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 63, 2023 at 3960 Rebeck Road.
Have a mover, please. Counselor Imhoff, second by Counselor Horechko. All those in favor? That's carried. The public hearing is now open. We will pass it out to Mr. Planner.
You ma'am. This is variance application VO 63 2023. The subject property is located at 3960 Rebeck Road. Similar to the previous application, the applicant wishes to increase the height and area for an accessory structure in the rural residential zone. As per the applicant's request, they want to vary or increase the height from the required 20 feet to 20.83 feet and increase the area from the required 1,200 to 2,148 square feet. Similar to the previous application, the applicant is proposing a building which is about 1,320 square feet with an additional 528 square feet lean-to and a 300 square feet mezzanine for storage. We did not receive any objections on this proposal. If the council wishes to approve this application, we recommend two conditions. Number one, this variance is limited to what is proposed in this application. Any changes in use, additions, and or replacement may require any variance approval. Number two, the owner obtained all required permits from Red River Planning District and the municipality. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Planner? Not hearing any questions this evening. I will see if the applicant is in the audience and like to speak to the application. Yes.
I'm Kyle, 3960 over there as the case before us.
Can you talk closer to the mic?
Sorry, like the application before me, it's the same kind of deal.
I don't think your mic is on, sorry. Is it green?
Yeah, it's green.
Okay, now we can hear you, yes.
The shop footprint is 120 square foot, bigger than what's supposed to be, which I try to keep it within that 10%. So the variance is the same as the height. I try to keep it within the 10% height. In all reality, it's 10 inches higher. That's going to be going, like I said, the footprint 120 square feet. If the number looks a little big as it adds the mezzanine, which is still inside of the footprint of the shop. And as you can, I don't know if you guys have the picture of the shop that I put in the application. The lean-to adds a lot of square footage to that number. What I plan to accomplish with the lean-to is it's facing the south into my backyard. So we as a family are going to incorporate it with our backyard activities. It's always nice to have extra shelter in the south. Our backyard's facing west, and in the evenings the sun comes in there pretty hot. We have a covered deck on our house, so that is a valuable asset to keep stuff like that. It makes it aesthetically better looking, in my opinion, instead of having a square box on the property like that. I will have a side drive behind the side of the house that matches the driveway that will drive straight into the garage door. And living in our climate, it's always good to keep our 2 lanes of vehicle inside 40 plus 40. I like working with my hands and tinkering stuff. It's a place I can do that, fix things. The mezzanine for storage, as when you have vehicles in a shop, the footprint gets jammed up pretty quickly, as we know, I got a full utility trailer. Your plans that have a full line trailer, so instead of having all that stuff sitting on the driveway, you can drive by, it'll be tucked away nicely in the shop. And I looked at those numbers, kind of looked at how my lot is going. You are technically allowed 2 structures, secondary structures of 1,200 square feet. So I did a little homework there. It's, you know, the combination is still under that. I have no real future plans to bring anything else. So that was going into it. I have Guggen Industries building the shop. They're a reputable company. So probably most excavation truckers help do groundwork and driveways. If you drive my house, take a look, it's usually pretty well kept. And I want to keep it that way. The need to is the big part of the square footage, but it look nicer and help us move forward in our backyard as a family. Be better stuff. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I can answer.
Councillor Posthumous.
Yeah, so your lean-to is 300 to 400 square feet or a little bigger, the mezzanine, that's part of it, so that brings you down like in the 1,700.
Yeah, they give you
And then the mezzanine up on top.
Yeah, if you took away the mezzanine and open lean-to as well, I won't be covering it in, but read another square book. That leaves us to 1,320 square feet, which is in that 10% of what we're kind of in-house variance allowance.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of homework on all that, trying to make it as best as I could. I think that in the lean-to a lot.
And it's all for personal use.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we have people build them and then they open a business out there and then you got all kinds of traffic.
No, that's for keep all the tools.
Okay, thank you.
So it's safe to say the mezzanine is 300 square feet?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go 15 by 20, go half the back wall and then half of the west wall.
You currently don't operate a business on the property?
I own a business that I'm operating there.
What do you do? What is your business?
I'm a welder by trade. I work for Manitoba Hydro. I have a business on the side.
So will the structure be acting as a business then?
No,
No, so your home business is just in your house?
no, it's more going to jobs, doing jobs.
Oh, I see.
There's storage of tools and parts like anyone who else who runs their own business. But
Council, do you have any further questions? No. Thank you.
any,
We have a couple of individuals signed in to speak in favor. I think I lost my sheet. I'm gonna say these wrong, just so you know. Jasbree Dylan, is that correct? Would you like to speak to the application tonight? No, just in support. Okay. And Jagrup Gill, you're just gonna be here for in support. Thank you.
The builders.
Okay, we don't have anybody signed in opposition. We have Adam Russell signed for information. Adam, do you want to speak to the application?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to move you to in support or in opposition? You want to remain in information?
That's a great question because I have 2 points.
Okay, well, we'll hear what you have to say first.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, councilors, taking your time and service. My name is Adam Russell. I'm the Vice President of RDI Landco. We're a development company and we are the owners of 3911. The property is directly adjacent to our 80-foot easement that we have access on to Rebeck Road. This 80-foot easement is designed for future consideration of future home development on the property in the future, obviously. The 2 things that I just wanted to bring to attention, number 1, certainly not against, and I am in favor of the additional auxiliary building. There's no question about that. But I guess where I was asked to be signed in under information purposes, was because I'd be remiss if I wouldn't bring to attention that, the size of 2,200 square feet is quite a bit larger than what the zoning bylaw, currently states. And I would just like to ask for consideration of what that building is going to look like for future development in 10, 15, 20 years from now. And just to kind of, make sure that we take into consideration the actual bylaw itself.
Okay, so, and you understand that the footprint is 1,320 square?
I do know.
Okay, so, okay, great. Okay. Councilor Rachko?
And plus he would be allowed to put two buildings up. But he's gonna cap this at one. So that, it's making sense.
Understood. Yes.
Councilor Pastorius?
You mentioned the other property, or so is your concern where this is going to be built or situated for sightlines on your other property?
Correct.
So if you sold and a house comes in, or you build a house there, that this is right outside the lake. So his, where he's putting it.
Yeah, so just keep in mind, we did the 4-acre development that has access on Rebeck. And we were left with a 8-foot easement for future road development. And the road would directly pass, go past the 1-acre lot that the.
Okay, so 3,911 is behind his property.
That's correct.
And that's up you're retaining right now.
There's 56 acres, that's correct.
Okay, and the thought is that in the future, you're looking to develop it.
That's
And your concern is that when the development is created, that the road, there is a gravel road there right now, I see, or path some sort.
yes.
It will potentially be a main road, and then it would be driving past.
Correct.
Does council
All
understand?
taken into consideration.
Thank you. Okay. And then for information, Michael Russell.
I just signed in. Just here in support.
Okay, thank you. Adam, are you going to remain in for information, or do you want to change to in opposition or in support?
I guess given the choice, in opposition of the size of it, but
Okay.
not in opposition or in favor of constructing.
Okay, well, it's one or the other, so I'll be moving you to an opposition.
Up to you, Madam Mayor.
Nope, it's up to you. If you want to be
Okay,
in
yeah.
opposition, I'm not going to make that choice for you, but you let me know where you want to.
In opposition
Name
to
two.
the size.
Thank you. Hey, is council prepared to close the public hearing? Okay, a resolution, please.
Be resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 63, 2023 at 3960 Rebeck Road.
Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Horachko, seconded by Councilor Imhoff. All those in favor? That's carried. The public hearing is now closed. And for resolution,
Be resolved that variation order 63, 2023 be approved, subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to increased area and height of the accessory structure as proposed in the application and the site plan. Any further changes or additions would require an approval. The applicant owner obtained all required permits from Red River Planning District and the municipality.
I'm just wondering if we should potentially add in
So use.
a business license. Does the applicant have a business license, Karen? Okay, yeah, so if he's operating a business out of the home or future, he would have to have a business license.
We usually put personal use only.
Okay, do you want to put personal use?
Yes.
Okay, that's
No
fine.
business can be run out of there.
Plus, there's the provision that no other building can go up after. No other
or the no,
accessory structure.
So it's on the floor for you've called them, you've read the resolution.
they'll change it
Let's see what they come up with.
for some use and no business to be operated. Because it's say like this business, he goes somewhere else to do the.
Hmm.
Business for that shop. So that's one.
Doesn't. Those ones structured.
Yeah, let's see, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So they limited. That's fine. Yeah.
She really isn't.
And not for the
What?
business.
That was it.
Which one?
Here it is.
I'll reread the resolution.
Thank you.
Be resolved that variation order 63/2023 be approved subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to increased height and area of the accessory structure as proposed in the application and the site plan. Any further changes or additions would require new approval. The applicant will obtain all required permits from the Red River Planning District and the municipality, and the accessory structure shall be limited to personal use, not for business.
Is council good with that resolution as read? Any discussion? Oh, wait, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Hratchko, second by Councillor Foster. I'll open the floor up for discussion.
I'm just curious, the two people that are for it, you guys live in the area, side them or?
They got the land right of property beside him.
Oh,
We have a property beside.
Okay.
916.
okay.
Michelle, can you just get,
Thank you.
fill out their addresses because they missed that portion of the form? That'd be good. Thank you. Okay, so is there any discussion, council? Do we wish to? Yes, okay, Councillor Hratchko, do you want to open the discussion up or you're good?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay, Councillor Posthumous?
No, I'm fine with adding that you can't run a business and it's personal use only.
You're good.
Good.
I'll call for the question then. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, 6.4 variation order 65.
We resolve that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 65/2023 at 2801 Gateway Road.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Imhoff, second by Councillor Posthumous. All those in favor? That's carried. The public hearing is now open and I'll pass the floor off to Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, ma'am. This is variance application view 65/2023. The subject property is located at 2801 Gateway Road. The applicant wishes to increase the height and area for an accessory building in the BLR zone. As per the variance request table, the applicant wishes to increase the height from the required 16 feet to 23 feet and increase the area from the required 600 square feet to 4,800 square feet. As I said before, the RMV St. Paul is the applicant and they're proposing a 4,800 square feet building for storage purposes. We did not receive any objections during circulation. If the council wishes to approve this application, we recommend two conditions. Number one, this variance is limited to what is proposed in this application. Any changes in use, additions and or replacement may require new variance approval. Number two, the owner obtains all the required permits from Red River Planning District and the RM. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
No.
No questions. Okay, we will close the public hearing. Oh, no, sorry. I have, I'm jumping ahead. Okay. Are you speaking to this application tonight, Kara? Or Dave, are you speaking to the application tonight? You're the applicant. No,
I could.
I mean, you don't have to.
I don't have really.
Yeah, we have our report.
Yeah.
I'm just making a little bit of a joke. We do have someone signed in support. It's David McCoy. Yes, would you like to come up to speak to the application? Just in support. Okay, thank you. David lives at 2780 Sparing Road, and I believe he was an applicant in the past. Yes. Yes, okay. Prepare to close the public hearing. For resolution.
Be resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 65, 2023. 2801 Gateway Road.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Imhoff, seconded by Counselor Postumus. Call for the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Public hearing is now closed. And for resolution.
Be resolved that variation order 65, 2023 be approved subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to what is proposed in the application. Any changes in use, additions, and or replacement may require a new variance approval. The owner applicant obtained all required permits from the Red River Planning District.
I have a mover, please. Counselor Rebeck, seconded by Counselor Postumus. Any discussion? No, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Under bylaws, 7.1 speed limit bylaw for resolution, please.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-10 being a bylaw of the Arm of St. Paul to establish the maximum speed limit on a highway or portion of a highway under the responsible traffic authority's jurisdiction be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Hedgeco, second by Counselor Imhoff. I'll open the floor up for discussion. I'm just gonna move to those sheets. Just give me a moment. Okay, so we have two potential amendments to the bylaw. One being the gateway, as long as it may be, remain 50 kilometers per hour. And the other one is Raleigh between Glenway and Applecross. That it remains, is it that it remains 50 kilometers? Because I see 50
It's
kilometers.
currently 60.
Yes,
And Councillor Postumus is recommending that it be lowered to 50.
to 50.
That section, that is where
Soccer
the
complex.
soccer complex is, and there are a lot of cars for Double Park,
Okay,
Children Crossing.
okay. So I'm going to open the floor up for discussion. Councilor Horachko?
Okay, so I look at the soccer complex and driving by there when it's being used, and it's jam-packed with cars there, the shoulder everywhere. And I think that area around the soccer complex baseball diamond should be 30 kilometers an hour. Just like a school, like we have at our school zones, on the side streets, because the soccer balls flying out and kids sometimes running. It would just be nicer just for that specific sort of area to be 30. The rest is, I don't have a problem with it remaining at 60.
Okay, so then you're not asking that all of Raleigh just in front of the field as if a school zone would drop down to 30. And then the remainder could be 60, or you want the remainder to be 50?
50.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Counselor Posthumous?
I think to have the remainder 50 right through. Although there is a trail, people still use Raleigh a lot. The trail gets packed with lots of people walking, so sometimes people bicycle down Raleigh, especially kids going to school. Birdsville School's at the other end, and then there's the crossing of the Bottomley Creek Trail is also there, so I would like to see it 50 right through, and I would be happy with 30 at the, I think the soccer complex now with, we are getting more people playing again, so it's pretty packed there. It's kind of a very dangerous spot. You know, possibly from Sparing to Pritchard be in that area, be in the 30, because also people, you know, it's not yet, and eventually maybe the underpass stays open or whatever, they're coming through there. It's kind of, you know, and I had calls that they've had people come down that street by the soccer complex doing like 80, you know, so it's, I think that area should be even lower, but and the rest 50.
Okay.
And I like that. It's also confusing because on the opposite side gateway, I went to look today, there is 150-kilometer sign by the park. That development came in and now it's 50 from there. Richard, on the opposite side, also on the gateway side.
Okay. So it's not that I'm disagreeing, but I'm gonna openly debate a little bit.
Okay.
For the soccer complex, my issue with the soccer complex in general is that there's a big parking lot, but families choose to park in the ditch or in the lands adjacent to the path, right? Because it's a shorter way into the diamonds that are right there. Because initially it's all fenced, and initially you walk through and you got the baseball diamonds. So instead of families parking in the essentially the compound, the complex, they choose to park on the grass on Gateway and then cross over illegally, pedestrians crossing over illegally to get the shortest run to the diamonds. So I'm wondering to help that solution, because you're saying, and I see that the cars are lined up there and yes, they're crossing over. Is it that we can't put up some signs for no parking on the grass there? Because ultimately that would prevent kids running out between cars as well.
You could probably do the no parking center side of the Marconi. That way they're not crossing the road. I would still probably have the parking on the soccer complex side. It's not that it's the diamonds. What it is the far fields closest to Raleigh, especially close to Pritchard, are a long way from the parking lot. And a lot of grandparents come to watch their kids play soccer. Those are the mini fields. There's about 5 or 6 of them right there. And then there's a gate to go to the mini fields. So they were parking on that side and walk to the mini fields. You're correct. You know, I would be fine with no parking on the, that way they're not crossing the road. There they could get out and go to the path that leads to the gate that goes to the mini fields.
Right. Because ultimately families are making the choice to park where they should be parking, cross illegally where it's not pedestrian crossing, and to have the shortest run to the diamonds or the soccer fields, right?
Unfortunately,
That can be a solution to preventing crossing at, you know, in the middle of Gateway or Raleigh, sorry.
I think we'd have to look at purchasing the land beside, because they do fill that parking lot, especially when games overlaps. And our sports people have been doing a good job. So we also get the high schools playing now, the soccer and the baseball. So they're finishing around 4 or 5 and the parents are coming. So it's full. It's full, and it's actually gone all the way down almost to Sparing that they're parking now. It's just we have that many people.
Okay, I've never seen it that busy, but I mean, I assume if there's a big tournament, they would need to have some overflow, but I can't talk to that. I can only say that I think that that can be part of a solution, is putting up some signs and forcing people to park in our parking lot and have a safer route to those fields. Councilor Reshko?
I agree with the signs. I think it's great. But when I look at the farmer's market on Sundays, and we have big parking lot, and they're parked there, and they're all parked on Hog Knot where they're not supposed to be as well. And we have no way of enforcing, unfortunately,
I don't
at the
think,
moment.
I don't think we have any signs right there on Hog Knot, actually. We do, we have no parking?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I thought that we only had it in front of the school,
Yeah, no,
10-minute park.
Yeah.
Uh,
but I agree with you.
yeah. So I'll also speak to, because this is the second meeting in a row that we've had requests for speed reduction or speed variations on streets. And I guess my concern is that we need to create a policy for criteria, because otherwise we're going to be flooded, right? Because I think that everybody in any community has speeding issues and speeding concerns. But I also know that we can't continually be altering speed limits, because what's good for, you have to also consider the majority too, right? So you have to consider that too when we're making decisions. And so I just want to go to our Director of Infrastructure to talk about potentially creating a policy for criteria. I know that there are some provincial guidelines, and maybe we could adopt some of those and label our road. We know what our roads are. We've labeled our roads, but have some criteria so that if we do have a request, then I find it a little bit hard for staff, right? They get a phone call, a counselor gets a phone call, and they want a speed limit reduction. And then staff doesn't even get a week and it's in a meeting. And we're not 100% been able to do due diligence, right? So, and it's great the community members are getting involved and coming forward, but we also have to make sure that we're meeting proper criteria and that we're considering majority as well. So I'll just ask you about creating a policy of such.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is provincial guidelines for establishing and posting speed limits that generally govern the existing bylaw for municipality in terms of how roadways are, the speed limits and are posted on the different roadways throughout the community. A number of different criteria that, of course, you have to be aware of. It generally not good practice to have changing the speed limits frequently or unnecessarily. You like to have a consistent speed limit throughout a thoroughfare. Different roadways, of course, have different standards as well. A roadway like Raleigh, for example, is more of an arterial or a secondary arterial, and would have generally is a higher standard roadway that would generally have a greater speed limit posting than a residential roadway. You may not want to have changes in shifts from 60 to 30 to 50 to 30 again or something like that. So these are all the types of considerations that are contemplated in the provincial guidelines and the policies for establishing the sort of guide our bylaw for speed limits and speed limit postings. Certainly, we could distill down the provincial guidelines to develop sort of a municipal criteria or municipal manual for different types of roadways and what we want to consider for them if council was interested. But those guidelines do exist now in provincial context. There's also an opportunity as well to, in special cases or in instances where there is uncertainty to do a speed study or do a review of sort of what sort of traffic conditions exist on a roadway. Sometimes it's actually more dangerous to establish an inordinately slow speed on roadways as well, because as drivers get frustrated with unusually slow speed, they tend to accelerate and pass or overtake traffic and that can create a dangerous situation as well. So you want to have an appropriate speed for a given roadway. You want to have a well thought out speed and you want to apply speed limits with proper engineering and safety based criteria as you had indicated, Madam Mayor. So I think that you know, these are some considerations, you know, as opposed to you might want to might want to consider reevaluating posted speed limits on roadways you may want to consider, and that administration could take away as part of a speed study.
Thank you. So a couple of other things that I'll add for our thought process tonight. Raleigh continues into the city of Winnipeg, and they have Anderson Park, and they have a small, tiny parking lot there, and everybody parks on Raleigh. And the speed limit is remaining 60, right? Because it's those secondary. I'll say that again, the secondary
Secondary arterials.
there we go. I don't know why I couldn't say that. So that's something to consider as well. And I think we're gonna, in this conversation, I'll just let the delegate know in the room that this will be we're gonna discuss your concerns right now, not move them to the end of the meeting, because this is part of the bylaw, right? Your concerns. So we'll be discussing right now, if you're fine with that. So a couple things. The delegate brought forward that a potential closure of Gateway going up into D&D excavation. And so I don't agree with this for the simple fact that our operations building is on that road and it's their route out. And you know, and in closing Gateway from Hodnut to Mulder, that was not a permanent closure, it was a temporary closure to see how that went, right? And what we're noticing, or at least I'm noticing, is that it's pushing the traffic onto Raleigh going to Hodnut in front of a school zone that's already compromised. It's a school zone that has issues already because of parking. Drop off and pick up. There's no good location for that at that school. We've talked about in the future, maybe looking at drop off zones, utilizing some of the land in front. But so now we're pushing our machines, we're pushing traffic in front of that school zone that already is compromised. And we haven't even determined if that's going to be a permanent closure or not.
Yes.
It was a test. But in speaking for speed limits being consistent, you know, Gateway being consistent at 50, that's fine. You know, I think that when new developments get approved, there has to be a true consideration of how that's going to look in the community and how that's going to affect the residents that are going to live there. And I think that's something that we have to take note of when we're approving development in the future. You know, this land in particular has come with this development in particular has come with a few complications and that we're short-sighted of. So does anybody want to add anything to the request that we heard tonight? Councilor Horeshko?
Well, from the gravel issue of the gravel being kicked up all the time and that I believe Gateway is in the plan to get done in 24. If I'm not mistaken.
That's the expectation at this time is the paving the Gateway will in one form or another will take place in 2024.
So that part will, you know, it was, I guess it was put off basically till Gateway Point was completed. They didn't want to, you know, the road would get wrecked. So that, you know.
That'll take care of the dust issue in the future. And the RM plans to continue the paving. Correct? It's part of our.
Correct.
Will be part of our road
Yes.
program. Correct, yeah. Okay. Councilor Posthumous?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with, definitely with the gateway being continuous all the way at 50, because on the other side it's 50, like I said, where by the park is all the way to Pritchard is 50, and then it goes to 60. So to make it one speed right through, I think would make sense too. Because somebody coming down that doesn't know our area could come down 60 and people can do 65, and now they cross over, they're gonna do the same thing on the other side, but it's 50 and they're gonna get a ticket. So to keep it all the same right through, I'd be fine with that.
Okay. Director of Infrastructure, do you have any concerns with the change in speed, having all your equipment on that road and exiting at that point?
No, I not having done a speed study, intuitively, it would seem to me that Gateway, I'd have greater concerns with making sort of unassessed changes on Raleigh than I would on Gateway. On Gateway itself, Gateway is 50 kilometers leading up to Pritchard Farm Road. And now here we have an example where you do have changing speed limits, which is what you don't want, right? You like to have that consistency. So it does make sense to look at a consistent speed limit along Gateway. Being a gravel road, it's not as a high quality thoroughfare as Raleigh. And I tend to agree that heavy equipment shouldn't be traveling at 60 kilometers an hour adjacent to a residential area on a gravel road. So not having done a speed study, regardless, I would intuitively, I think that would make sense.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Imhoff, do you have anything to weigh in?
I think you guys have beat up pretty much everything I was going to bring forward. I do like the consistency of 50 kilometers straight through on all of Gateway, and ideally, although the Director of Infrastructure has mentioned that we haven't done a speed study on Raleigh, having it one consistent speed all the way through would make sense there too.
Okay, so right now, is it not consistently? It's 50 after you cross Mulder by the school zone, but everything else is 60?
30 at the school.
Yeah, 30 at the school, but 50 leading up to
50.
that. We're 60.
30, then 60 on Raleigh.
Right, and so it's 60 all the way after.
Absolutely.
Yes, so I mean, I travel that road every day consistently several times a day because I live in the development adjacent, and I actually don't see concern for changing it without a study. I would like to see us meet a little bit more criteria before we decide to change Raleigh. Just for the simple fact that currently Raleigh between Mulder and Time is just open field, and
Right.
you know, it is a commute, right? It's a commuting road right now. So I have an issue with changing Raleigh tonight without moving into looking at how we change speed limits and having proper criteria. But the Gateway one this evening, I think that one's gonna pass tonight, and that one's fine to me.
Okay.
Consistency there, and with the new development, I think probably in the past by the park on Gateway was changed to 50 because of by the park.
Yes.
So I can understand why it should all remain 50. But for Raleigh, right now, I'm not prepared to change it. Also, questions?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Also, looking into the soccer complex, if our staff can look at why the park is like that, if there's still room. I know, I had lots of seniors, like it's a long walk from the parking lot to the far corner to the furthest field if it's for a 6-year-old grandkid and someone 70 or 80. If we did do the parking, I'd let our staff look at it, and I still would keep it on the one side. And I think it was originally always on the one side, and people just started parking in the middle and then walking across the road. So if we eliminated, if there is room, or they don't need that extra parking, to eliminate the middle, that people aren't crossing Raleigh. Like on the other side, they can get out and just go to the path and walk in. It's safe. But the opposite side, like Counselor Rebeck was saying, some kid sees a friend on the other side and just bolts across. If we don't have that parking there, that's not gonna happen.
I think that I have a good example of behavior, and it's, there's a picture, I should post it in this room actually, where there's a sidewalk that's been made by individuals going to the public sidewalk. And they've mowed down the grass to get to that public sidewalk. So they put in this nice new path, paved and everything to the public sidewalk, but they continually take that mowed down path, right? So it's gonna be a challenge to get them not to park there.
Yeah.
But it's something we should probably look at, because they're actually creating an unsafe situation for themselves.
Walk here,
We're not permitting that, we're not offering that unsafe situation.
parking on
They're
grass.
taking that upon themselves. Correct. Okay, so if there's no further discussion.
Yeah.
Do we want, how
That's
do
the
we want to
gateway one?
deal with this tonight then?
I think that we will move forward with the resolution as it was read.
Okay.
With the changes being that gateway we will reduce the speed.
50.
Straight across from to 50 kilometers and leave Raleigh alone until there's further information. And perhaps a study or a policy in place.
Okay, so but the resolution on the table will remain the
Both
same.
remain the same.
Okay, so now I'll call for the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Now for third reading.
Move on that bylaw 2023-10, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish maximum speed limit on highway or portion of highway under the responsible traffic authority's jurisdiction, be given third reading. Be it further resolved that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the bylaw on behalf of the municipality.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Rebeck, seconded by Councillor Posthumous. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so 7.2. General Reserve Fund bylaw. For first reading.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-11, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the general reserve fund, be given first reading.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Rebeck, second by Councillor Posthumous. Any discussion? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. This is 7.3.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-12, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the Parks and Recreation Reserve Fund, be given first reading.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Posthumous. Any discussion? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. 7.4.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-13, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the Real Estate Reserve Fund, be given first reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Rebeck, second by Councillor Imhoff. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. 7.5.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-14, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the Sewer Reserve Fund, be given first reading.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Posthumous. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. 7.6.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-15, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the Transportation Reserve Fund, be given first reading.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Rebeck, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. And 7.7.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2023-16, being a bylaw of the RMLD St. Paul to establish the Water Reserve Fund, be given first reading.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Posthumous. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Hey, we don't have anything under policies tonight. Nothing under, under general business of planning, 9.1.1 development agreement amendment for resolution.
Be resolved that the development agreement between the RMW St. Paul and Worthwhile Management Limited be amended as presented, and be it further resolved that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipality.
Okay, can I have a member, please? Councillor Frenchco, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. Okay, I'll open the floor up for discussion. Councillor Imhoff?
I didn't see anything in there really concerning. I noticed that they have the depreciation schedule set for the recovery fees, which makes sense. I have no issues.
Okay, Councillor Posthumous?
I'm not sure if we're opening up for other people to come later on after they do development agreement and come back to ask for recovery. If this opens it up for every other development we've done. It wasn't in before. So I'm not sure if I'm in favor of this type of thing, you know. And the recovery, I'm not sure how long the road's been in there already. Like if it's already 5 years worn in. You know, some have 10-year recovery, full recovery, 5-year recovery. You know, the recovery could have been down to 50% at the time already, and then down the road we're the ones who repay.
I should mention. The timeline starts when the original development agreement was signed in 2017.
2017, so it's already 6 years past. Okay, that answer that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask. What is the criteria that we have in place for amending development agreements?
At this point, it's pretty basic, since we don't have many requests. If the developer requests it, it's brought forward.
Yeah.
So makes decisions okay with it or not. So we can amend our policy if you'd like to put in some more specific criteria. At the time when the policy was created, I think I'd had one request. It's usually 1 a year at the most for an amendment.
I guess my concern is that, you know, how many years can go by and a DA can be amended? Or how many
Right.
what are the reasonings for amending a DA? I think that, you know, what if we're 10 years in and a subdivision goes across? Because I believe that because there's a potential application for subdivision across the way, that this is why this is coming forward. You know, had that not be coming forward, then of course, but we don't even know what that subdivision is going to look like or how it's going to be laid out or designed, or there might not even be recovery costs associated. So I just wondering, you know, when is it that we say, no, we're not amending your development agreement anymore?
This stage, we don't have a timeline. We did have someone come forward recently who was 10 years into his development agreement and asked to extend it another 5 years for his recovery costs, for example. So we may want to establish a timeline.
Yes, because these are negotiable and you negotiate your development agreement when you're there to develop your land. You know, it's a little bit of exaggeration, but you know, if you buy a lottery ticket and you win the extra, but you didn't pay for the extra, you can't go back and say, well, I want the extra now, I'll give you $1. You know, so I'm just wondering if if there should be consideration in the future. We're dealing with this one tonight, but if there should be consideration in the future for some kind of check boxes that we need to consider for amending development agreements, especially when there's, you know, consideration of other lands involved and so forth. Like I have to wonder why it wasn't put in place to begin with. And, you know, of course, now I understand why it's coming forward. Do you have anything to add to the application of the request tonight? And my concerns?
No, I don't. I think the fair comments.
Councillor Rebeck, he hasn't spoken yet.
You know, I mean, I agree with you on, you know, there should be timelines. Yeah, on something like this. This person paid for the gravel road and everything. Paved road. So if this new development is gonna front on that road, then I feel we should be entitled to something for it. If it's not gonna have frontage on that road, then yeah, it don't matter. He's not gonna get nothing.
It would only be for anything fronting on the road.
If the address is on that road.
Right, and I agree with you, Orist, Councillor Harshaw, is that typically when a development is put in place, that's something that's negotiated in the DA, that they want to see that there's recovery across into the future. But at some point, when do we say, well, we can't just, you know, it's been X amount of time, now we're amending, right?
But was this our fault? Oh, it's his.
At the time I'd spoken with the engineer, who generally says there should be recovery costs for this. And he indicated he didn't think it'd be possible based on the steep ditch to the north. So it wasn't included, and then the developer didn't bring it up either. So sometimes, like half the time the developer brings it up. The engineer sometimes brings up recovery costs.
Well, it's typically on the developer and their engineering staff, right? It's not for the RM to say, this is what we think.
It's to
right?
his advantage, yeah.
Yes, it's for him to negotiate, not for the RM to negotiate. Anything further?
Yeah, and I agree with that, yeah, he should possibly get some recovery, but it's the timeline that it's done after like 6-7 years later. It's like, you know, we shouldn't be doing that. And then also, I'm not sure, like he's got, you know, 590,000 for the whole thing, but it, you know, was it in a few years, we got to rebuild the road. So is he depreciating 6 years worth and it's half of that? Now, I didn't see that in there at all.
Yeah, it's tiered, so the costing goes down every so many years.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, and why didn't I find, like, I go to the bottom here and I don't,
You go to.
was it a 25-year or a 10-year or
15-year.
15? So he's already past 6, but
Yeah, 9.
yes, he's 9 left, but my main concern is the timing of this, like. Then it's 6-7 years later.
I will adjust the policy moving forward.
Sorry, Councillor.
And just for the uninitiated, it'd be good to have. I can see now, I guess the S17 represents the year 2017, but I have no idea when the original agreement was signed, right? Like, so just putting it in there as just as a statement for, so that I know it's 6 years old.
Change that if you forget.
Right, so I think what the request before us this evening and the fact that we don't have any criteria to meet, we have no reason to deny the request, in my opinion. But I think moving forward,
Right.
we need to have some criteria for the next time an amendment comes forward that it's meeting that.
Right.
That
Yeah.
criteria. And of course, because I think we know that there's an application coming forward and potentially that could be using those roadways. Do we service the roadways now?
We clean the snow,
Okay,
so we have to patch it.
Okay,
so then if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried.
To me, it's a timing. 7 years later. Makes sense.
So we dealt with the business arising from delegation, and the delegate has left the building. And so then we just have correspondence for information, which was in your package. Looks like the radon test results were a positive for the RM and for community members. It was a great program. Thank you to staff for putting that on and allowing residents to see their radon levels in their homes. And then we have something in camera this evening, so I'll have the resolution to move in camera. Thank you, Karen.
Madam Mayor, can
Be resolved that council now move in camera as per section 152(3) of the Municipal Act to discuss personnel matters, and be it further resolved that all matters while in camera are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d).
Okay, and before I call for a mover, I'm gonna say that Councillor Posthumus will be exiting now that it's 7 p.m. He had to leave at 7 p.m. We'll just wait, Charlotte. If you just wait for just until. So when we come out of in camera, you will not see him on the camera. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horeshko, second by Councillor Imhoff. All those in favor? Carried. We will now move in camera. Council has returned from in camera. There are no resolutions that came out of in camera. We will now have the resolution to move out of in camera.
So the council now moves out of camera and resumes the regular.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horeshko, second by Councillor Imhoff. All those in favor? That's carried. And the resolution to adjourn.
Resolved that the meeting be adjourned, the time being 7:22 p.m.
Gonna race? Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Horeshko. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.